Once you're ready.
Okey dokey, vamos adelante. Okay, it is 6:31, today is October the 22nd. This is a special meeting of the Floresville Economic Development Corporation. My name is Ray Lambert, I'm here to establish a quorum. For this, we have Ben Reed, Sherry Castillo, Fred Gonzalez, Daniel Tejada, Marisa Jimenez, Billy Herrera. We have our interim executive director, Henrietta Turner, and our attorney, Clarissa Rodriguez. Fred, would you like to read some information?
Yes. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over us as we carry out the town's business. We thank you for your many blessings and the privilege to serve you in our community. We thank you for those who give of their time and talents to do this. We ask that we will always be mindful that what we do is for the citizens of Floresville, and that we find it in our hearts to work in unity with those we serve and those who serve with us. Give us the ability and enlightenment to assure that we do the best that we can. By the same token, give us the courage to make the hard decisions in carrying out these responsibilities, and that we make our decisions with care and compassion. We ask this in your Son's name, amen.
Amen. Pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag, pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank everybody. Do we have any citizens' comments? Greg, do you have any comments? Old business, update to the board from the attorney on sale of industrial park acreage for the purpose of opening up a recycling plant with a third party.
So we have a packet here that of documents that we had originally proposed to Mr. Dumar to engage with this recycling plant out of Brazil. And so the result is that it has, because the sale, we accepted the sale, or the price, and so we put together the legal documents to give to that company in Brazil, because if it wasn't at fair market value, we have to enter this performance agreement. And so we gave it to their negotiating team, and today I spoke with Mr. Solon, who is the person we've been negotiating with on behalf of the business entity Dumar, who was negotiating with Brazil company. And Brazil said that there's some turmoil going on, or well, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's happening based on the elections in Brazil. So they asked that we delay the proceeding with the project until January. And so Mr. Solon, on behalf of Dumar, which is the entity that's here in Texas Antonio, asks or is ready to proceed. They would like to just purchase the property outright, which makes sense for, you know, the FEDC. However, it requires an appraisal, and it requires, you know, it's just a straight up land transaction. But in order to proceed with that, we have to do an appraisal to make sure we get fair market value.
One quick question, because you're talking about fair market value, but I thought we'd established at our last meeting that the cash proceeds at the sale, of course, but then with the additions of the crossover, this or that, we're gonna be well within the rim of fair market value plus some.
Well,
You've been paying for the.
They're paying for the bridge, they're paying for,
that's right, all the others. So that's where this other performance agreement grant comes in. If they do all of the work, right, the way that it works under the local government code is that you have to either get fair market value or you enter into the performance agreement, because you're using, this is taxpayer money that we bought, right, the land with. So in order to proceed with an agreement with them, it's like an incentive package to anybody. It could be to them, it could be to anyone else. And so in order to incentivize that, the substance of the deal encompasses and includes all of that other pieces of the package separately than if you were to just get straight up fair market value for the price, for the property. So I spoke to Mr. Solon today, and I said, we have two options. We can proceed with this performance agreement for Dumar, or we can proceed with a straight up sale of the property and getting an appraisal. He thinks that the way the appraisal may play out is that, based on some discussions he may have had with somebody, that the fair market value is actually maybe, will even out with the amount that they have offered.
I think it's slam dunk they'll even out, especially, I guess where I'm at, come in and maybe y'all, if we don't disagree, but I think we need to try to make this as simple
That's
as
what this is.
possible.
This simple.
And move it and just get it wrapped up, because even if we have to, you know, if it's there's a way to do it, to where if it appears to you there's not fair market value, if there's a way that and once they sign the contract and everything's all said and all done, to where they actually give us more money for the project, but we pay for the bridge. So at the end of the day, their expenditures will be well within the fair market value plus some.
Right, so that's how we have to work this, but we have to, giving us more money to pay for the bridge encompasses what we call the incentive. So it's, the negotiation encompasses either working on out that type of incentive and them giving us more, or the fair market value, just straight up land purchase. And so Mr. Solon was agreeable to that. It made sense, he agreed to doing the appraisal, he agreed to paying for the appraisal, he asked for us to recommend whoever we wanted to use for the
I'll get you some
appraisal.
names on that.
He recommended for us to use whoever we wanted to do on the title company. And so, as a result, the cleanest way and the easiest way is to do the straight up land transaction. And then, depending on what happens, it may or may not be this Brazilian company, it may be the Green Star, the one that their parent company, or any other type of company. We can then talk about doing incentives with building that bridge or whatever else with the company that they recruit to come into the property. So it's a straight up land deal for this one company, right, Dumar, to just buy the property. And then, because it's uncertain about whether the Brazilian company is gonna come in, it could be them, it could be someone else, it could be, it could be HEB, I'm just making this up. So then we say, okay, if HEB wants to come in, we will work with HEB or whoever to incentivize them paying for that bridge, and we work with them on a separate project to implement this performance agreement. And Mr. Solon was like, that makes perfect sense. He knew exactly what makes sense for him to work with whatever company they're gonna come in, and the three, Dumar, any other company, and EDC work on an incentive package for
So
any other
we're
company.
selling to like a broker then?
No, it's a company
It's a
that,
company.
So how can they
The bridge would actually be, we're just gonna move money from our left pocket to our right
I
pocket.
can
right, I mean, that's just
You
an
know.
example.
How can they guarantee the job, the performance
So-
agreement?
Right, so I asked him, he said that he was ready to, because at first we talked about the performance agreement and those substantive negotiated terms about the jobs, the size of the building, all of those other things. And he said, I'm agreeable to that. He said, we, Dumar, are agreeable to whatever company, if we do it or bring someone else in, we would just have to tweak the way the agreement looks right now if we did it that way, okay? But he said the cleaner way is to do the straight up land transaction. So there's two options that we go. He's more agreeable to saying, we just sell the property to them and they find someone to come in, and then the performance agreement and those jobs are done with someone else. He was agreeable to saying, we're still agreeing to the 50 whatever jobs, the 6 administrative positions, the size of the building, for that option.
But we're
Mr.
going
Sorensen.
in their blind, that we don't know what type of industry it'll be.
Yeah,
Correct.
and then how do you do a buyback clause if they don't bring it in within a,
You
not a
can
certain
still
time?
negotiate that in
Yeah.
the purchase agreement. You can negotiate some other terms into a purchase agreement if they're willing to do that.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit more about this grant that you keep talking about. What does that mean? And does it apply every time that we sell the land for less than market value?
It should, yes, sir.
I didn't see that in the one that we're selling over here with Atascosa Clinics.
Which ones?
You know, the one here at Veterans
It
Park.
was sold for $10.
We sold it for
Yes.
$10.
We did a performance agreement and
Yeah, but
then,
there is nothing about a grant in there. It has some commitments on the part of the company. They're gonna bring so many jobs. They're gonna put so much investment money in there and so on. But there was nothing about what do you call it?
that deal was.
Performance agreement.
Right, that
The
deal
grant,
was
the grant.
structured a little bit differently in terms of the way that the grant was the
Performance
the
agreement.
way that the performance agreement was written with that particular deal. Here, because it's, the type of deal and structure for this particular deal is, the way we wrote it was to be like an infrastructure grant, because there was other things about the bridge and other stuff like that. That's the way we wrote it.
Because the other one's
It's
a
an
nonprofit.
infrastructure. Right.
Could it have been done the way this one was?
Sure,
done?
it could be done anyway, right, you can structure it.
Would it then not have the grant that you're talking about requirement?
No, it did not, it wasn't required and we didn't do it, but we did it with the performance agreement requirements. It met all the standards, right.
Right, and I understand that, but this seems to be something that I've never seen before. You know, they would having to put up a grant in addition to the commitment to do this and so, including investing 2.2 million and so on.
Right, so if you look at the way the agreement is written, you'll see that it just says that basically because and I have to ask Dan, the one who drafted this, I'm not sure
Well,
where he came up with the
So I don't
money.
take too much of your time. I know what's in the agreement, I don't really know, but you're gonna tell me and I'm okay with that. But does it have to be that way? That's my point.
We can, well, the reason we did it that way, and I need to ask Dan why he came up with the numbers that he came up with.
I mean, my deal is, how can we keep it more simple?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
Simple.
And then the bottom question is, you say that they don't have any problem with the delay or doing this. It's not gonna deter them from coming over.
No, that's why I said there was two options. He understood the performance agreement made sense and the way the structure was for the performance agreement. And then I also said, well, the other option is to do it as just a straight up real estate
And that's always
transaction.
there, we know that.
So
Right.
are you saying that they were okay with the infrastructure grant that you have here for $350,000?
Yes, ma'am.
450.
Well, 450 with
Yeah,
100,000.
yeah, it's coming up. They have to
But
spend
that's
it.
like a loan, right?
It's
Is
it's
that
not
like a
it's like the based on the way that the project would be structured is that because they're bringing in this big building and people and a business, the value of what we're giving them would
Equals
be
out.
equal to 450,000. But we're not giving them that money. It's just the value of the project, and the only thing is they're giving us back is they're purchasing the property for 100,000. So the total value of the grant, we're not giving them any money. There's no money in exchange for that big
But
amount.
the
It's only
grant
the
requires
100,000.
a lot of paperwork, a lot of documentation, annual reports. You know, every time you turn around, you've gotta be doing paperwork. Do we have other
Streamline it.
companies that do that today,
Here.
here?
I don't know.
Not in
No,
line.
Yeah, if we can get around without the grant, I think we're
I
much
mean,
better off than
This
this
is so
complicated.
complicated, I can't believe that people should be leaving, running away from Floresville
Yeah,
with
if you
this
just-
kind of
But,
stuff.
before I finish here, now, the $100, it's $100,000 is part of this grant, you say. Well, but it isn't really, I mean, they have to pay $350 more than the 100.
No,
They have to just
150.
invest, the building will cost that, the building,
The
the
building,
sewer, the
everything
water.
that they're right. So
It'll equal to that.
it's equal.
So they'll not owe any more money
No, sir.
over the
But the
100,000?
property isn't worth
Correct.
450,000, so I don't
No,
know why
it
the
isn't.
grant
No, it isn't.
has to be so high. I mean,
20-something acres?
22.
21.
I mean, if you sold it at going price 12,000 acres,
Yeah.
But then you have setbacks and
240,000.
stuff you're not using, but again, when you add the bridge to the cost of the project,
Yeah.
you're well within their limits. of
The 100,000 plus the
value,
bridge should meet market value.
Without fail.
But the bottom line for me, because I think this is a very good endeavor, something we want for Floresville, and I thought had it, are we sure that it's not going to deter them from just not coming?
No, sir. I spoke to him
From
today. No, sir. I spoke to them today, and they were ready to stay in Floresville. We wanted to make the simplest way possible. We went over the two different options and agreed that the easiest, cleanest option was the straight-up land deal.
And this is just part of it.
This is not part of it anymore.
Oh, this goes away. We do this,
This
the land
goes
transaction.
away if we
Yeah,
do the straight-up land
But what we
transaction.
did Friday goes away too, right?
I'm sorry?
What we did Friday, and that is approve the offer of $100,000.
No, we're just gonna do a land transaction for that.
It's gonna stay like, with
It
the-
should be
It
still
stays that way.
100,000.
It's gonna stay
based on
100,000.
Okay.
But there's no guarantees to us that
No guarantees as far as the
production.
numbers or.
Yeah, because they're gonna go shop
Or,
it.
or what kind of company, it's just, Dumar is gonna purchase it. They're still committed to finding some company that will sufficiently, I mean, it's still 22 acres, they still have to develop 22 acres, I mean, they have a,
And
they
make
certainly
access to it.
have an interest in developing that land.
And they're
right?
committed to the
Once
size
they buy
also?
it.
The size also they're
Right,
committed to?
they, I mean, 22 acres is quite a bit, right?
I mean,
So-
as far as the size of a company that they're wanting to come in?
I believe
The
the
50%.
discussion today was, we're interested in, if it's not them, it'll be
50%.
some other recycling or some company that
That's-
they
That
want.
size, so-
my question is just
More or
like,
less, okay.
so my question is, I'm okay with that, just how long do you give them? You know, could they can sell it for 5 years, say we sell it to them, and the company can come in tomorrow and can develop it.
Well, there's no guarantees.
Yeah.
It's a straight land sale, and
Yeah.
once we,
But they have to do it for that, or we can buy it
But there's
back.
a performance agreement where they have to do something within a certain period of time.
No.
No performance
No.
agreement.
No, no,
no.
See, that's like a
They're
land
supposed
grab,
to
and we try to
catch.
prevent that, because that has happened in the past where
Straight up, the
people have-
easiest, cleanest way is the land transaction. Or you do with the performance agreement that has the,
Could they buy it for that and turn around and resell it for a higher
Sure.
profit? Then, this way, they could, right?
there's
Legally,
no,
they can, I mean,
Yeah.
whether they want to or not,
I'm
that's
just,
a question.
that's what we just.
but we could wait till January to see what the
the other-
situation is internationally.
that, well, the preference is Dumar wants to purchase it now.
Right now.
That's what they want now.
Yes, we
They're not
understand.
ready, they do not, they wanna do this quickly, they want to do it efficiently, they want to buy it now. They do not wanna wait till January, because they don't even know for sure either, whether
That was
this
the understanding right
recycling
from the very
company.
beginning, that if there was urgency in doing it, like now.
How long would it take, can I ask, Mr. Chairman, how long would it take, you said you have some names from appraisals, it shouldn't take them more than 2 or 3 days to get an appraisal, right?
Yeah, it may take a little longer, it's been on their schedules, but to write an appraisal on that
7
is
to 10
pretty quick,
days.
yeah.
Presence of it in there. My concern is just like a bait and switch. No, I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but buy one thing and do another, and we just don't have any control of what goes out there. And then you get, what precedents you wanna set for the next company? You know, we've already bought back property from people that we told them, if you didn't build this within a certain amount of time, does that hold us accountable, saying, hey, well, you did that to me, you're not doing it to the next person? You know, on a couple of those properties?
Well, this is pretty much the last of the dirt, but if you go back and look at the history, there's a lot of people bought land there for 5,000 an acre,
And the turnout selling
and
it.
they're selling it or sitting on it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, we have nothing to entice a company to come, say we wanna give it to another company to come in either if you sell it. So, 'cause this job wasn't about the 100,000, we had money to bank, this was about bringing jobs
Right,
to my,
absolutely.
it wasn't about the number, you know, we're not hurting for money, it was
Did he
about.
say anything about Green Star?
He did say that that was an option.
Yeah.
Because that's another option, Green Star is growing.
No, I said I mean, if you can bring one of those companies in and land it, maybe somehow they keep us in the loop, so that way, you know, you're not just in the dark for so long, and we just hold our, you know, we're.
You know, we can, talk about some terms, I can talk to, we can brainstorm some terms to the actual purchase agreement, separate than this performance agreement. And see if they're agreeable, depending on what y'all, how
What do
you
you think,
see it
Sherry?
play out.
Or can you do like a first right of refusal, if you wanna sell it, we have the right to buy it back first?
Yeah, certainly,
That's the price we
absolutely
paid
can
for
do
it, something like
What's
that?
the clawback clause that we talked about including in?
It's in here
Okay.
for the 2 years.
But if we do it the other way, can we do like cause I did that on a piece years ago, that we did not a buyback, but it was
You
a.
could do a right of first refusal.
Right of first
Yeah.
refusal,
That
if
we
they
get the
decide that,
option.
we had the option to buy it back for what we paid on it, if they decide to sell it. Cause say it falls through, this company falls through, that company falls through.
But
That would-
like Ray is saying to me, I think we're getting too
Yeah.
complicated in here. Is it necessary to be that complicated to achieve
No, you
what
just-
we want?
I just say you do a land sale with the first
But
right
the-
of refusal.
I think what we tried to achieve was the jobs, and, you
Yeah.
know, the industry. Right here with this straight land sale, we're still lowering the price to $5,000, or we're not having any guarantees.
And that way they wanna turn and sell it, say they wanna sell it for, I don't say
The
it.
appraisal would tell us how much it should sell.
Yeah.
But one thing, if you tied building the infrastructure, i.e. the bridge across there to the sale,
Yeah, but there's no guarantee on this.
but what I'm saying is they can't sell or use it without putting that there.
I think that's what we
If you
talked
add that as
about.
part of the contract, to where, you know, before they can utilize the property, this has to be done.
But remember we talked about all
So
the.
if they sell it or whatever, doesn't matter. You know, if we get that,
Mhm.
we should be able to get the jobs, get what we, you know, we're covered. But again, I like your idea of having the job security for sure.
You just put a few, can you put a few things like, hey,
I
we wanna
I
sell
don't
this?
know if you know the answer to this, but are they still planning on bringing a recycling plant?
Not right now. It just says they have a portfolio of potential companies for industrial business.
So the backing off on that is based on their reasons for doing it, not because we're doing what we're doing here.
Right,
Is
and
what's
there's
going
some
on
vulnerabilities with Brazilian.
I understand, because I want to make sure that we didn't deter them
No.
by all these complicated
No,
stuff.
no,
we're
no,
doing.
Not to do with the government
No,
herself.
not at all.
They have an election
Yeah.
next weekend, this coming weekend. They have a runoff election for the president, so.
So there's some uncertainty about what's happening over there politically, and so they will operate differently, you know, than we do here. So they asked to delay it till then,
But they may still have a need for Green Star, right?
correct?
Or like
That's what
another
his
portfolio.
position
And
is that
Green Star is
a portfolio
local, I
with
mean,
potential
a-
companies for industrial businesses in Floresville. So it could be, this is the email I got.
Yeah, I'm just looking, yeah, so there, it could be more than just that other, just.
It could be Green Star, it could be the.
They could be
the
5 other-
Recycling, it could be whatever he did come up with. They
Or
have
just
a
something where-
portfolio
yeah,
of
or we can help.
potential,
Or something where the board can help along the way, where we just don't,
right,
So we can
the
continue to-
incentive package we would give is to any potential company that would come into their property. But they still have the plan to build industrial businesses, but at this point, no, nothing, we offer none of this,
That wasn't a.
no, sir.
yeah, in the future, I'd like to just do
And
something more
I
fair.
want to say something here based on my feelings on it. I think that we need to be in the loop all the way through, not at the tail end of a process. From the very beginning. Decisions should be made by the board, not by the emissaries that we send out there.
I
Not
agree.
not unless we, the board, votes to assign or to direct somebody to do.
Well, that's what I did. At the last meeting, all of those things that you wanted, all the deal points
Yes.
were in here.
We never said anything about an infrastructure grant.
Well, that's just the way a performance agreement works, usually. So, but everything about the 22,000 square feet, that's why I clarified. Let's, can we go into executive sessions? That way I
Yeah,
can
because it's in contract.
make sure that y'all are comfortable with
Yes,
what I'm advising.
by all means.
I still move.
I'll second.